The restaurant was buzzing that Saturday evening, every table filled, waiters rushing back and forth with trays balanced on their hands. Amidst the noise, a little girl sat quietly in a wheelchair by the corner table. She couldn't move her legs, but her bright eyes scanned the room with wonder. Across from her sat a man in an expensive suit, his phone pressed tightly to his ear, his gaze fixed on stock numbers glowing across the screen. The man was Richard Hale, a billionaire CEO known in business circles as cold, calculating, and untouchable. Few knew he was also a single father. His daughter Emily was his world, but the truth was he rarely showed it. Work had a way of stealing his presence, even when he was sitting right there beside her. As Richard argued into the phone, a group of teenagers entered the restaurant, loud and careless. They walked past Emily's chair, one of them laughing cruelly. "Look at her wheels," he whispered to his friend. They snickered, not noticing, or not caring. That Emily's small hands trembled as she tried to hide her tears. That's when it happened. A young waitress, her apron slightly stained from the rush, stepped directly in front of the boys. "Hey," she snapped, her voice louder than anyone expected. "That's enough. You don't talk to her like that." The boys froze, the restaurant went silent. Even Richard finally lowered his phone. The waitress, whose name tag read Sophie, knelt down beside Emily and smiled gently. "You don't listen to people like that, sweetheart. You're strong and you're beautiful." She tucked a strand of Emily's hair behind her ear before standing tall, eyes blazing with protectiveness as she glared at the boys. "Apologize to her, right now." Murmuring awkward excuses, the teens shuffled out of the restaurant, their arrogance gone. Richard was stunned. For years, he had built a fortress of money, power, and lawyers to protect his daughter. Yet here was a young waitress, earning barely enough to pay her rent, standing up for Emily without a second thought. After the dinner rush ended, Richard found Sophie in the kitchen, washing dishes. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. Sophie looked up, surprised. "Of course I did. No child deserves to feel small, not for something they can't control." Her words cut through him. For the first time in a long while, Richard saw himself, not as a billionaire, but as a father who'd been too distracted to see his daughter's silent struggles. The next day, he called Sophie, not to fire her, but to thank her. He offered to cover her college tuition, something she'd quietly given up on years ago. At first, she refused, until Emily herself wheeled into the room and said softly, "Please say yes, you help me." Tears welled in Sophie's eyes as she accepted. From that day forward, things began to change. Richard made a promise to put down his phone, to show up, not just physically but fully, for Emily and Sophie. She became more than just a waitress. She became family, a reminder that true kindness doesn't come from wealth or status. It comes from courage. In the end, it wasn't Richard's billions that protected his daughter. It was the selflessness of a stranger who refused to stay silent. And through that moment, he finally learned what it truly meant to be rich. And so, in that small restaurant on an ordinary night, lives were changed forever. A billionaire discovered that love and presence were worth more than every dollar in his bank account. A little girl found the courage to smile again, knowing there were people who would always stand by her. And a waitress with nothing to give but her heart proved that true wealth is measured in kindness, not money. Sometimes the greatest heroes wear aprons instead of capes, and the simplest acts of compassion can ripple farther than we'll ever know, because in the end, it doesn't matter how much we have, how much we give.